Hi there, my name's Jason Dickstein, and together we are going to explore some of the special requirements associated with shipping lithium batteries. I do want to warn you that this is not standalone training. This training module is meant to be used as part of the Washington Aviation Group's Hazardous Materials and Dangerous Goods Training for Shippers class. Please don't use this training module without also completing the class, because the class includes additional essential details that are not covered in this presentation. If you need the full training, you can find more information about training at either dangerousgoodstraining.net or washingtonaviation.com/hazmat.html. We do teach classes for shippers of hazardous materials and dangerous goods, and our classes are live and include an opportunity to ask questions and work with the instructors in order to make sure that you understand the requirements. So we've got several learning goals for this very special unit, and again, remember that this unit is in the context of a supplement to our regular training. Under this unit, we're going to use the ICAO and IATA instructions for shipping dangerous goods in order to understand how to identify the proper packing instruction and also the section within that packing instruction for shipping a lithium battery configuration. We're going to identify the proper packaging for lithium batteries. We're going to identify how to properly label and mark a lithium battery package, and we're going to understand the special documentation requirements that apply to lithium battery shipments. Now, the summary for how we're going to ship lithium battery articles is that we're going to classify them, we're going to identify the packing instruction and section, we're going to package them, we're going to mark and label our package, and we're going to complete the right documentation for that package. Now, the first step is classification, and there are 6 different classifications that apply to lithium-ion battery packages. You'll see that each one is associated with a UN number. So UN number 3480 is lithium-ion batteries. UN number 3481 applies either to the batteries contained in equipment or those lithium-ion batteries packed with equipment. And then similarly, UN 3090 is lithium metal batteries, and 3091 can apply to either lithium metal batteries contained in equipment or lithium metal batteries packed in equipment. Now, the next few slides have tables and other information on them, so I'm actually going to turn off my camera so that my image on the screen doesn't impair your ability to see the tables. As you know, there's always 3 potential shipping configurations for any package: limited quantity, passenger and cargo aircraft only. In this table, you can see what the packing instructions are and also what the available configurations are. So you'll see that none of the lithium battery proper shipping names lead to a limited quantity configuration. 2 of them, lithium-ion batteries and lithium metal batteries, so the batteries alone, can only be shipped cargo aircraft only. And then when the batteries are contained in equipment or packed in equipment, there are configurations for cargo aircraft only and also for passenger and cargo aircraft. So I just want to highlight for you that for batteries packed alone, there is no passenger and cargo configuration. That means you're always, for those particular configurations, going to use a cargo aircraft only label. So when you approach this, you want to start by identifying the packing instructions section within the packing instruction that we've just identified. So you start off by identifying your packing instruction number. You go to that packing instruction, and then you identify whether your configuration matches 1A, 1B, or 2, bearing in mind that only packing instructions 965 and 968 have section 1Bs. The other packing instructions only have section 1 and 2. They are not split into a 1A and 1B. So let's walk through packing instruction 965 together in order to get a sense for how this works. So you should have a dangerous goods regulations book in front of you. Please open up to packing instruction 965 and let's take a look at it together. First off, we have to understand what shipment metrics are important. We have to be able to identify the watt-hour rating for our batteries and also the quantity in kilograms. You'll note that there is a maximum limit for cargo aircraft only of 35 kilograms for this packing instruction. You're going to use your watt hours and your kilogram mass in order to identify the correct section within the packing instruction. So the watt hours should be marked on the battery. All batteries that have been made since December 31st, 2011 are expected to be marked with watt hour ratings. In some cases, when it's not effective or efficient to mark the battery, that marking may be found on a specification sheet. You're going to take those two metrics, watt hours and kilograms, and first of all, let's compare them to the section 2 limits and see if they'll allow us to use the section 2 instructions for the packing instruction 965. So there are 3 different configurations that are permitted under this section. If your battery meets any of these 3 configurations, then your batteries can be packaged under section 2. So let's note some general limits. The cells have to be less than or equal to 20 watt hours. The batteries have to be less than or equal to 100 watt hours. The batteries and cells must be charged to no more than 30% of the rated charge. So they have to be discharged down to that level. So, as I said, there are 3 different configurations. First configuration is one where the lithium-ion cells and or the batteries have a watt-hour rating of 2.7 watt-hours or less, and your maximum net quantity per package is 2.5 kilograms. If you can meet that, then you can use the Section 2 provisions, and there is no limit on the number of batteries in the package. Secondly, if you have ion cells, so the cells are within the battery. A battery, for example, might have 4 cells in it. If the cells have a watt-hour rating of more than 2.7 watt-hours, but not more than 20 watt-hours, then there's no limit on the mass or weight, but there is a limit on the number of cells. You can have up to 8 cells in this configuration. If you've got lithium-ion batteries that have a watt-hour rating of more than 2.7 watt-hours, but not more than 100 watt-hours, then you can have up to 2 batteries in a package, and there's no limit on the mass or weight. So if you can meet any of these 3 configurations, then you're allowed to use Section 2's packaging instructions within Packing Instruction 965. If you can use Section 2, then your next step is we need to read Section 2 to identify the packaging, the markings and labels, and the documentation, and any other applicable requirements. It's very important to read through the entire Section 2 and make sure that you're meeting all of the applicable requirements. Now, if Section 2 doesn't apply, either because your number of batteries or the watt hour or the mass in kilograms of the batteries exceeds the thresholds for Section 2, then we'll use Section 1. We'll get to Section 1 in a few slides, but first, let's finish up Section 2's configuration. First off, we have to select an authorized packaging. The table immediately below the table that we were just looking at lists the outer packagings that are authorized. So we need to create a combination packaging. The inner packagings have to be completely enclosed and protect the batteries from damage or compression. The outer packaging has to be a strong and rigid outer packaging that is in the form and using the materials shown in this table. And obviously you can use anything in this table. So you could put them in an aluminum drum, you could put them in a fiberboard box. Each of those are authorized outer packagings. You're going to need to apply two different labels and markings to the outside of this package. First, you're going to need the lithium battery mark, which you see on the right-hand side of your screen. You will need to indicate the UN number, and oftentimes these are pre-printed with the UN numbers. And you also need to put a telephone number for additional information, someplace where someone can call if they have questions about your package. In addition, because these are only authorized to go under cargo aircraft only configurations, you must of course have a cargo aircraft only label for these particular batteries. When you're creating your documentation for Section 2, first of all, remember that there is a strict limit. You can have only one package per consignment. You don't need to create a shipper's declaration for dangerous goods, but you will need an airway bill. In the airway bill's nature and quantity of goods box, you want to print two different pieces of information. First, lithium-ion batteries in compliance with Section 2 of Packing Instruction 965, just the way you see it on the screen. And then second, either the words cargo aircraft only or the abbreviation CAO. Both of those need to appear on that airway bill. So if we can't meet the Section 2 limitations because the watt hours are too great, the mass is too great, the number of batteries we want to ship is too great, whatever the combination happens to be, then the next question is, can we meet the Section 1B limitations? The Section 1B limitations are going to be that each of the cells has to be rated at less than or equal to 20 watt hours, or the batteries must be rated less than or equal to 100 watt hours, and the quantity has to be below a certain threshold. If you look at the table on the bottom, you'll see that that threshold is 10 kilograms or less. So we have to be below 10 kilograms. You might be wondering, what if I have more than 10 kilograms of batteries that need to be shipped in one package? The answer is we're going to shift to Section 1A if we can't meet the 1B requirements. So if we're in 1B, we're going to once again have to select packaging, markings and labels, and documentation that are appropriate. We have to follow the other applicable requirements in the Section 1B narrative. Now, again, if Sections 1B and 2 don't apply because of our configuration, then we'll simply slide over to Section 1A, and we will get to that in a few slides. So, if we're under Packing Instruction 965, and we're using the Section 1B packaging configuration, as with Section 2, we must use a combination packaging. The inner packagings, as with Section 2, must be completely enclosed and protect the batteries from damage or compression. The Section 1B outer packaging is a strong and rigid outer packaging that's actually capable of withstanding a drop test. So that's one key difference from Section 2, is that there are drop test requirements, which means either you have to purchase packaging that has met the drop tests, or you have to accomplish and document the drop tests yourself. In most cases, it really practically means you're purchasing packaging that has been tested to the drop test standards. But they don't have to meet a UN specification. They merely have to be an outer package that meets one of the forms that you see below, drums, jerry cans, or boxes of the materials that are shown below. For Section 1B, you're going to have 3 different labels and markings. You need the lithium battery label, which is that Class 9 label that has batteries on it that you see on the right-hand side. You also need the lithium battery mark, the same one that we used for Section 2 configurations. And you need a cargo aircraft only label as well. For Section 1B configurations, we will need to complete a shipper's declaration. We'll complete it as usual with one exception. The packing instruction in sequence 3 normally would be packing instruction 965, but in this case, it is instead denoted as packing instruction 965-1B. This is a special documentation rule that applies only to packages that rely on the 1B rule to distinguish them. It applies to packing instruction 965 and also, by the way, to packing instruction 968, which is the other packing instruction that has a 1B configuration. And this brings us to Section 1A of packing instruction 965. Section 1A is meant for configurations where your lithium-ion cells are rated higher than 20 watt-hours, or your batteries are rated higher than 100 watt-hours, or your quantities exceed the 1B limits, meaning that they exceed 10 kilograms. Now, essentially, this really means that your quantities are going to typically be between 10 kilograms and 35 kilograms, because 35 kilograms is, of course, the maximum net quantity per package allowed under packing instruction 965. And I think it's safe to turn the camera back on. The next step is reading Section 1A in order to carefully identify what packaging is authorized, what are the required markings and labels, what do we need to do for documentation, and what other applicable requirements might apply. Under Packing Instruction 965, Section 1A, once again, we're looking at combination packaging. Your inner packagings have to be completely enclosed, and they have to protect from damage or compression, protect the batteries from damage or compression. For your outer packaging, though, and this is a little different from Sections 2 and 1B, your outer packaging must be a UN specification packaging, meeting one of the specifications that you see below. And this is obviously the table out of Section 1A in Packing Instruction 965, so you can look that up and not have to worry about the fact that my image has obscured the right side of that table. There are 2 markings and labels that apply here. First, the lithium battery label, that's that Class 9 label with the batteries on it. And then in addition, you're going to need a cargo aircraft only label. Notice that the lithium battery mark that we used for Section 2 and for Section 1B is not used for Section 1A batteries. There's a significant number of special provisions associated with lithium batteries. Don't forget to read and follow all of the relevant special provisions. You'll find those in column M of Section 4.2, which is, of course, the list of dangerous goods, also known as the blue pages of the dangerous goods regulations. If you need more help, our attorneys teach hazardous materials classes. We've been involved in the development of hazmat regulations in the past, and we also defend businesses accused of hazmat violations. You can find out more about the law firm at washingtonaviation.com. You can find out more about the training classes at dangerousgoodstraining.net. Thanks a lot for being a part of this.